A good day to you. Welcome to Restorooster OHV. Today what we're going to be doing is replacing the seal and the fluid in our 2000 Honda CR125R rear shock. Stay tuned to see how we do that. Basic hand tools. Alright, so I pulled the shock out of the bike. I checked my upper bushings, they look good. The bump stop is missing. But first thing we want to do on this is we're going to release the nitrogen charge if there's any left. All you need for that is a basic tire Schrader valve tool. And she's still charged. Not much, but she's still got a charge. That's a good thing. Next thing we're going to do is get our lock rings off. Adjuster and lock ring for the shock spring. We're going to put that in the vise as an extra pair of hands. Just use a slotted screwdriver and a hammer, and we're going to tap it to break them loose. Be careful not to hit the threads. Loosen that all the way. Usually you can just grab the spring and turn it. It's a good idea to take note of where these were originally. You can put a little mark on it with a Sharpie so you can put them right back. You don't have to worry about setting your sag and all that stuff over again if you were happy with it. Once the spring is loose, you'll notice that the rear or the bottom seat is free. There's a slot in the seat retainer. You can slide that out. And all of this will slide off. And you want to go ahead and keep note of what direction all of this stuff comes apart. Next thing we want to do is our rebound and compression adjusters. We want to put them as far to soft as possible. Count the amount of clicks that there are so you can put it right back to where it was. Four clicks. Boy, they gave this one all of it. So we're going to go back to factory stock settings on this. Next, we're going to knock off this retainer cover. There's two little notches. You usually get in there with a screwdriver and just tap it out. And there's your seal, which is soaking wet, so it's obviously leaking. Next, I'm going to take the compression adjuster out. They do have a special tool for this. Most guys at home won't have it. It's probably fairly inexpensive, but if you're not doing too many shocks, people aren't generally going to purchase something like that. So you just wrap the thing with tape. I'll just go real easy with a pair of pliers and get this thing worked out. When you take this valve out, you got to expect a little bit of fluid leakage out of the shock. It is going to be slightly under pressure if there's any fluid left in it. Once you get the upper part of the valve off, or the outer part of the valve off, there's a spring, and then the inner part of the valve, which you just grab with a pair of needle nose pliers and work it out. Now we can drain the fluid out of our shock. We can pump it back and forth a few times. All right. Now that we got the shock drain, we have to remove our bladder, which is in here, this cap, and then we need to remove the piston rod. What holds both of these, the seal and this cap in, there's a snap ring on the inside. So you want to find a socket that will go down over your Schrader valve and just give it a couple light taps. Sometimes you want to mark these. This thing's pretty marred up. Rats have been chewing on it or something, so you can see that snap ring down inside here. Small screwdriver or a pick tool, get in there and get it out. I put a valve cap on it, and I'm going to use a pair of pliers and gently wiggle this cap and bladder assembly out of here. If you crush this, you're going to be in a lot of problems. Obviously, I have to replace this cap. It's only made out of like light aluminum, so just very lightly work it out. So there she is. We're going to do the same thing with the piston. We're going to just tap it down lightly. That piston will fall down away from it. Be very careful not to damage or mar up this rod. And this has got a snap ring in it just like the other one, so we're going to take this one out as well. Now you just grab the piston and we're going to just use the momentum to get it out. I'm going to take all these parts, give them a good degreasing, clean them up real good, and I'll be right back. After degreasing, you want to check the bores to make sure that there's no serious damage or gouges or scratches on the surface. This one actually looks pretty good. So this is the seal we'll be replacing, this whole pack. This here is the piston and the valving. There are 1,643 washers in here. If this falls down on the ground, you are out of luck. You're going to have a great time with your manual trying to put this puzzle back together. So I'm going to show you a little trick with that. But to get this nut off, it's actually peened over from the factory. We actually have to grind this edge until we can get this nut off. Since I don't have a bench grinder, my Harbor Freight 4-inch angle grinder will do the trick. Once we have this ground, we're going to put a socket on it, work it back and forth. It may need some more grinding. Gonna need a little bit more grinding. It's going to need a little bit more grinding. You can either continue doing it the way you were, a file works pretty good. I'm actually going to use my cutoff wheel and just slightly take the edge off. As you start loosening it, you can see a burr is starting to raise up right here. That means it's still a little wide. Tighten it back down. I'll take that burr off. It's just a slow process. We'll just go back and forth. There we are. So we'll just go ahead and chase that thread. The trick I was talking about to get this off, basically take a Phillips head screwdriver, stick it down in, and you can slide this whole unit off and it will stay together. Now we can remove our old seal, take note of the orientation. We're going to clean this up, little brake clean and a rag. We have our new shock kit. This one's by Tusk. It's going to come with the new seal and bumper, assembly, and a new snap ring. Now this is the tricky part. The edge of this shock shaft is a square edge. There's no bevel to it whatsoever. They make a tool, they call it a bullet, I guess. It looks like a bullet and it matches the exact size of this. It slides over here and it's tapered on the end so you can slide your seal on. A lot of people don't have that. So what I like to do, and it works out pretty well, so I'll cut the corner off of a medium heavy bag. And generally just slide this over the edge. Put some shock oil on it. And we should be able to slide this right on without damaging our seal. We can just pull our bag off. Now we have our new seal installed. Next step, we're going to go ahead and put our valve back in. Same way we took it out. Next we'll put our nut back on, get it torqued down. Check the specs for your machine. Next we're going to take a punch and we're going to peen this back over in 4 spots. First we're going to take some of the shock oil, lubricate the inside of the cylinder. Same thing with the piston. And of course our new seal. And we will slide her back home. So she's pushed down a little bit past the indent for the new circlip, snap ring, retainer ring. We're going to go ahead and put that one in. Make sure she's in there and that she's seated properly. And you go ahead and tap your retainer cup back on. Being very careful not to hit that shaft. Next, we're going to get our bladder back in. Same thing. Lubricate this seal. And if you made a mark, line the mark back up. And again, we're going to push this a little bit past the snap ring. The snap ring groove, I should say. Get that in. Take our pliers, being gentle as we were last time. Pull that up till it seats. Next, we're going to go ahead and start pouring in our shock oil. Apologize that the lighting is so bad. Eventually, I'm going to get like a LED or something so y'all can see. You obviously want this valve to be the highest point here so all the air can escape. I'm going to slowly push this rod in and out, work some of that fluid in. Once you've got the piston fully extended and it's topped off, just lightly tap around. Make sure all the air is out of it. Now we're going to go ahead and put our compression valve back in. And it should be full. This should actually force fluid out. And we'll tighten it up the same way. Once our valve is in, put our Schrader in. Repressurize this. Put 50 psi in it. it'll take it out of the vise. We're going to check the operation of the shock. Make sure everything works smooth. Perfect. So the last order of business here, obviously clean it up, put the spring back together on it, and then it has to be charged with nitrogen, 140 psi. You have to take it to your local dealership or somebody around you who does repairs that may potentially have nitrogen to charge the system. And that's it. You put your shock back on your bike and you're ready to go. I hope this video was informative. If I left anything out, I kind of went pretty fast. Throw some comments down in the bottom. I'll be happy to answer those for you. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Subscription, like, hit that bell. It'll tell you when a new video comes out. I always appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.